It is 5:30. What are the members?
Yes, Ilya Arbman for the record. Just acting chair. Gabriel Maya is not here. I'm going to call this. Oh, Gabriel Maya is coming up here. Should we wait for him? Okay. All right, Gabe.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Let's go ahead and start with roll call.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair. Let's see. Ilya Arbman.
Present.
Zachary Bolton,
Here.
Gabriel Maya,
Here.
Sarah Horseman,
Here.
Jarrett Singh.
Here.
Valerie Tilson. Here. Anthony Dispenzieri. Jurgen Hohen.
Here.
Mr. Vice Chair, you have a quorum of the Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Very good. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on with public comment. Do we have any public comment on present or online?
Mr. Vice Chair, our first item today is public comment. Members of the public may hear, observe, and provide public comment virtually by registering through the following link, which can be found on reno.gov/meetings. https://links.reno.gov/3D4CMMW. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. The NAB may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. Mr. Vice Chair, we do not have anyone on Zoom, and we also, I believe we don't have any public comment in public either.
All right, very good. Let's go ahead and continue on with the with the meeting, and let's go ahead and go to section 8.3, approval of the agenda for April 1st, 2025.
Motion to approve. Ilya Arbman.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. There are corrections to the agenda. So I'd like to give those now. That's all right.
Very good.
Jennifer Alvarez, Council Relations Liaison for the record. So on the agenda, we have Ms. Rodriguez being the chair, but she is unable to be the chair at this time or to be counted towards quorum due to a clerical issue. So, excuse me. So we look forward to seeing her at a future NAB. And
Okay.
those are the only corrections I have for the agenda.
All righty then. Can I get an approval for the agenda for April 1st, 2025 with the corrected statements?
Yeah, Ilya Arbman, motion to approve.
Zachary Bolton for the record, second.
All right, everybody in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody against? Motion carries. Very good. So let's go ahead and start off with the city council, council liaison report.
And it looks like Mr. Martinez is not present, or Councilmember Martinez.
Yes, very good. Where's Mr. Martinez at? All right, well then, in the absence of Mr. Martinez, let's continue on with A5 with the staff liaison report, please.
Okay. Okay. I want to thank you all for being here. So if we haven't met before, my name is Jennifer Alvarez. I am the other council relations liaison, and I'll be taking over while Abby is out. So you'll be seeing me every month. I have a couple updates for you. So the city of Reno is having a rose pruning demonstration April 5th, and it'll be from 9 to 11 a.m. at the Municipal Rose Garden. And that is located on the east side of the California Building in Ottawa Park. They'll be teaching the public how to properly do rose pruning. They'll let you know what tools you need and the best time of year to prune and show you different rose types. There's also the Biggest Little Egg Dive on April 12th, and that's also open to the public. If you'd like to register, on your packet, you'll see the QR code, or you can call as well. And there is a link in the reno.gov where you can sign up if you'd like to participate. I know it's $10 if you're actually participating, and then $3 for spectators. All right, board membership updates. So as of right now, there are currently two members or two openings, I should say, including Ms. Rodriguez's position, which she is going to reapply. So for that one will be taken up, and then two alternate vacancies available as well. Community champions, we hope to have this item agendized for the next NAB. Please, if there's someone out there in your community that's making a difference and you'd like to nominate them for a community champion so they could be recognized, we recommend that you nominate someone. And the link is also available on our website and on your packets. I also advise that you sign up for the newsletter if you haven't yet. That way you get the latest updates for your ward and all the other boards and commissions that the Reno City has as well. If you'd like to report something going on within your ward or anywhere in the city, potholes or any type of thing that that needs action, sorry. You can always contact Reno Direct. Their phone number is 775-334-4636. They're available in person Monday through Friday from 9 to 4, but you can always report online at reno.gov/Reno Direct. Our upcoming meetings, we have our next council meeting on April 9th at 10 a.m. The next planning commission meeting is April 2nd, so that's tomorrow. And the next Ward 3 NAB is on May 6th at 5:30 here at Council Chambers. And that's when hopefully we have a community champion that we could recognize as well. And those are my updates, Mr. Vice Chair.
Fantastic. Very good. So let's just go ahead and into the business items with B1 for the update from the Reno Police Department.
Hi, everybody. Chief Nance for the record, here to give you a quarterly update from the Reno Police Department as we're loading that up. Just to remind everybody, we're doing a little bit different on how we're presenting information to the NABs. Hopefully we're making it a little more relevant to what you see, what you want to see, and anything you need. And we'll get to that kind of at the end. But what we want to do is make sure that my staff time and the effort that we're putting into it is usable information for all of you, and you're getting the information you need back from us. So the plan is for right now that 2 times a year, we'll have a lieutenant here that will present some data and some stats. And then annually, I'll come in and kind of give you an overview of what is happening at the police department, kind of an end of year report. So I'm going to tell you that you guys are the first one that I've attended in the month of April, probably because it's the first, which is the why. But I will say this is that you are getting a preview of some things that are going to come out in our annual report in the next couple of weeks. So some of this will come out in the annual report, and then some information that we haven't yet put out. So you're going to getting a little bit of a pre-read on some things. So, and then again, like I said, at the end, if there's something you're really interested in from the police department at that twice a year meeting, please just let me know so I can make sure that we can get that to you. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna start off with our 2024, 2025 goals. So these were the goals that we put forward into the budget book every year. So just kind of give everybody, this is publicly available information for what the police department said we wanted to do in this fiscal year. Some of it we've already done. We have completed number 4. We moved. We are fully living in the new the Public Safety Center. We have an amazing space there. We are seeing customers in that space hourly. I walk through the lobby probably 3 or 4 times a day. And every time there's somebody in there filing a report, looking into something, talking to a detective, whatever it is. So it is a very well-used facility. We have started a fun thing there. We've started Food Truck Wednesdays. So on Wednesdays, we have different food trucks that are coming, both for our staff and for members of the public that might want to join. So that's kind of a fun place to have lunch. If anybody's interested, pop on by and see who we have every Wednesday. We're having a new food truck. So it's been very well received. Other than that, the things that we're really working on, our forensics unit, continue to work on our deeds, which I'm going to address a little bit later on. We did a patrol deployment study using a Matrix Consulting Group, and they provided us information on how we could better expend our resources in the patrol capacity. Those are the officers that are responding for calls for service. So if you call the police, they're the ones that are going to go. And so how we were deploying those resources, both in timing and days of the week and in different districts, they helped us work on that. So we did deploy first round of that in October with our shift bid. However, we looked at it and we found that there was some places we could improve. So we are redeploying a little bit differently in our April shift bid. So it's always going to change for us. It should never be stagnant year over year because things change. So we want to make sure that we're keeping up with what the needs of the community are. And then we talked about 4, that's done. We're reviewing our policies and general orders. We've reviewed probably about a third of those. We want to rewrite our procedures and policy manual completely. Some of our policies were quite outdated. So we wanted the opportunity to say, hey, what's a better way that we can do that? We're using a service called Lexipol. They are a national service that looks at policies and specific for our jurisdiction and says, what are best police practices? What are the laws regarding certain things? And how are our policies in relationship with that to make sure that we're keeping up? And they're all vetted by attorneys and then our personnel also. So it's a work in progress, but it has been it's a very positive experience for our employees because we're really having an up-to-date policy manual. So I can tell them, this is the policies, this is our expectations, and then we can hold them accountable for things because the policies match what our practices are. And then our wellness program received a $1.5 million grant. It was a federal appropriation. And we've actualized that money this fiscal year. And that is going to allow us to have a gym in the new building. So the gym equipment is supposed to be here next week. I will not quote that because we've had a lot of delays because of weather and everything else that happens in the world. But we're hoping for next week. And then also revamping and revitalizing our peer support system, mental health resources for our staff. Really working on resiliency. How do we better handle stressful situations? And then working on what physical wellness looks like, mental health, mental wellness, spiritual wellness, and also financial wellness is another service that we're providing. So those are our 6 goals. So how are we policing? It's directed engagement enforcement deployment strategy or DEEDS. These are the goals of DEEDS. And so really the goal of DEEDS in a very simplified manner is to identify areas that are having a need in our community based on calls for service and high priority calls for service and deploying resources into those areas, not just as an enforcement mechanism, but also as an engagement place. And then to identify who is driving violence or who is driving criminal behavior, either somebody or a business who is being victimized or are maybe the suspects of crimes, and how do we stop those from happening? And it's a complete package in trying to associate what's driving crimes in our areas with how we can prevent that using our community members. We change locations monthly. It's a data-driven system that we look at to see where we should go. We take that information and then we ask the people that are actually doing the work, where do you see the problems? Where do you think we should respond to? And we get that input back from them and we determine where we're going to move to each month. This was our January deeds focus area. It was the Yory Park area. That's a heat map for anybody that's never seen one before. Sometimes people don't know what that is. And it is where we were seeing focused calls for service. So violent crimes, property crimes, thefts, issues that we knew we could make an impact on. This does not mean that this is the most dangerous place in Reno. Doesn't mean that there's not other places that might have higher propensity for crime. But it gives us a chance to say, these are the type of crimes, and this last month, maybe we saw an increase, or last year at this time, we saw a spike in crime. So we knew we can be effective in that area. So that's where we're deploying our resources. So that was January. This is February. We were in the Keystone area, and we went all the way out Dickerson because it made sense to include that area based on the dead end there. So it's kind of a weird looking map, but that was one that we utilized. And then this current focus area is in the Diamonds Casino area. So we're between 80 Wells to 395 in the Truckee River. And again, these are the heat maps. These are the calls that were focused, calls for service in that area. What I will say is when we are in that area and we're providing additional resources from the police department side, we also partner with code enforcement and Clean and Safe and our park rangers, if there is a park. We see that our citizen initiated calls for service, so calls where people in the community need to call the police for something that happened to them, decrease, sometimes very substantially. And our proactive enforcement by our officers increases. And as those two things happen, we see a decrease in crimes. In some of the different areas we've been in, we've seen a 25 to 30% decrease in property crimes. We've seen 100% decrease in traffic accidents with injuries, which is very important. So the more presence we have, the more people slow down. So it's pretty much common sense when police are in an area. People usually don't do the crimes there. It's kind of why it's hard to police and catch people, because they're usually on their best behavior when we're nearby. Not always, but usually. But the more time we spend in an area, the more time we engage with the members in that community, we're providing them the resources and helping them to identify how their businesses could be unsafe, how maybe they could be unsafe, and then identifying suspects and people that are the ones that are driving these crimes, how we can identify and apprehend them. So it's a multi-part approach through the whole police department. One of the things that we kicked off this year, and it wasn't in our goals because we didn't think we were going to get it done, but we did, we were able to start it as our real-time information center. So this is going to be in our next fiscal year goals to grow. The real-time information center is a partnership between us and Sparks, and we're working together out of our facility. And we have a space where we can look at what's happening right now. We can utilize our resources, things like, and I'm as freezing as I was all day now, I'm going to be up here talking, and I know I'm getting nervous. You have to make me nervous or something. I'm getting hot. I know. It is not warm here. Okay. So back to this. So we utilize real-time information technology that we have to make sure that we are able to respond to calls in a meaningful manner. An example of this, and I can give you two. One is, if somebody calls the police, generally they are having a stressful situation. They don't call us when things are going well. They don't call us when they're having a great day. They call us when things are bad. And so their ability to communicate that information with us might not be as good as it is under a non-stressful situation. So we might not get all the information from that person as much as we would like to, because the way that they're responding is under stress, and it's hard to respond under stress. Some of you might have experienced that or know what that's like. So when we're responding, we are only getting partial information. We're getting one person's perspective. Utilizing the camera systems, the existing city cameras and cameras on businesses that they have allowed us to have access to, we can see what's happening in that area. So we can look and say, oh, this person reported a crime and they're very upset about it. Maybe it's a traffic accident, but really looking at it, it's not as bad as it came across, because their stress level made it seem worse, and people are off the road. There doesn't appear to be any injuries. We can slow our officers down and have them not respond lights and sirens, creating an impact in our community and more stress and a higher level of a response. We can slow them down and respond slower. We can maybe only send one car instead of sending three, because we know what we're going into. Same as if somebody calls in to tells us information, but then we look and we see, oh, we see a person with a gun, we see a person fleeing, we need to send more people. So we can tailor our response based on what we can see on the cameras. We also can go back and look and see where were offenders of crimes located either before, after, or during the incident. So maybe the incident happened at one intersection, but we have video of them somewhere else doing something else that led up to that incident that we didn't see before. We first rolled this out in Santa Clara, and we were able to identify a person who was a drunk driver who had actually gone up on the sidewalk, almost hit several people and left. By the time the officer saw what happened, it didn't look the same way that it looked when the video was rolling. So we were able to say that person fled, you need to go find them. They did not know that they were involved before that. And we got a very dangerous drunk driver off the street, and we're able to have a total picture of what actually happened, not just what the officers saw at that moment. Everybody's drinking at Santa Claus. Sometimes their memories aren't real great about what happened or their perception was off. We have a better way to say this is actually what happens. We were able to present a complete package to the district attorney's office in a much more cohesive way. So this partnership allows us to do a ton of things. It's a great resource. We are working on getting our gunshot detection system that was purchased with ARPA funds late last year. We were able to get that funded, and we're going to start installing those soon. Those come with cameras, so we'll be able to identify where gunshots happen in certain areas of our city. It's about a 1 to 2 mile radius. And then have camera footage of what happened afterwards also. So we're able to really follow up on those crimes better and use that to link other violent crimes. So it's been a phenomenal partnership with the Reno Police Department, members of our community that have camera systems that want us to also have visibility of their cameras. We're not in their businesses. We're looking at street cameras outside. So if an officer responds to a call for service, we can look at that real time. So it's been a big resource. We're looking at getting more hours into the day of getting people working there. Right now, we're able to staff it a few days a week, but we are going to need to have additional personnel to staff that more effectively. If anybody wants to know how to participate, I have a QR code here. The information is also on our website, so we can get that going, or the resources there. So you can have that if anybody's interested. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about is one of the big things that we've done this year, and it took a lot of work, but we are ready to kick this off. And that is our strategic operational plan for the police department. So really starting to say, how are we working as an organization? So what do we do? What is our driving focus? How do we deploy our resources? What are our ultimate goals here? What is new in this plan is our mission, vision, and values. We're going to rewrite those completely. I'm not ready to unveil them yet, but they're going to be new. Our motto is going to stay the same. We're going to keep that. That was decided upon in our organization, but a lot of work through the organization to make sure that our mission, vision, and values really do match how we're performing in the community. And it was time for a revamp of that. They were almost 20 years old, so it was time for a new one. But these are our 4 strategic goals. Obviously, we're a police department. That's our #1 job. So our #1 job is crime prevention and public safety. That's what we do. So that has to be #1. And then how do we do that? We have to do service-oriented policing, proactive service, making sure that we're out, we're visible, we're in the area, and progressive and forward thinking, using that information that is new and not policing in old ways, but policing really in new modern ways to make sure that we're doing the best we can. And then empowered, engaged professional workforce. We want our officers to be highly trained. We want our professional staff members to receive the training they need. That works with our morale, works with our staff wellness, and it makes people want to stay with us, and also increases our ability to hire. So we want to keep recruiting and hiring and moving forward with that. And then efficiency in our department. We all know that there's budget cuts and things happening in the city where our financial situation isn't what it was a couple of years ago, and we're working on how are we going to resolve those issues. I don't believe in working better with less. I think that doesn't work. I think we say that and people just think that they have to just work harder. It's being more efficient with our resources and being more efficient with our personnel and making sure our personnel are doing what their intended job is. So I want my officers to be out doing police work because that is what I need them to do. And I want my professional staff members doing jobs that they do within the police department also, and making sure that they have the resources to be as effective as they possibly can be. And all of that is with the goal of reducing crime. And I think I'm at questions. I will say a couple of little things. We have about 30 vacancies right now, 31 vacancies on our sworn staff. We have 4 vacancies in professional staff members. We always operate with a higher number of vacancies this time of year because we only really hire before our academies start. Academies are in July and in January. And so we start hiring officers now to put them into that academy. So we'll start getting them onboarded in May or so, get them prepared and ready for the academy. And we are planning right now on having a full academy and also hiring some lateral officers. So I expect by June or July that number of vacancies to drastically decrease from the 30 that we're at now. It's very normal for us to have an increase due to retirements and maybe people that didn't pass the academy or the training program. So we're right about where we should be historically, and now we're getting ready to start hiring in that space again. And so that's all I have. I've prepared for you. I can answer any other questions you may have, though, either on these topics or really anything else.
Valerie Tilson for the record. I was wondering, is there an equal amount or what, let's see, what would be the ratio of people that are out of service, meaning like you said, the first spirituality or not active, but I'm not sure what the term is.
So people that maybe people that aren't working full capacity right now or working in some sort of other modified status, either off or not working. I don't know the exact number. It fluctuates and comes and goes. And so we might have some people that are off on long-term medical or disabilities and PTSD or things like that. And we have some people that are actually working in the building still and not on the streets, but in a light duty status. I don't have the exact numbers for you, but we do deal with that on a routine basis. And, somebody, for example, I have somebody that has a back injury from being involved in an accident or an incident. And so they've been off and they maybe have a surgery, come back. And then so we deal with how that is. One thing that we do very carefully now, and we've taken this on as a project, is we found that people were kind of lingering on work comp claims where they weren't getting the necessary treatment to get them back or to retire. Because one of the two is going to happen. You come back to work fully ready, or you're going to have to retire because you have an injury that doesn't match what the function of the police officer is. And so we have been really monitoring that very carefully to make sure that we are not the holdup in somebody getting treatment or, a work comp claim. And we want to get people back to work or to get them off the books. And so we've been really careful now in watching that. It wasn't something that was done real well before, but we're monitoring it. I don't have an exact number for you, but there is definitely that group. It's not a huge number of our personnel, though. It's a small number.
Jürgen Hohen for the record. Chief, what's the attrition rate? You said 30 new candidates. How many are we losing in the city per year on average, más o menos, to retirement or quitting?
Yeah, so what we lose people to majority is threefold. One that somebody that we have hired but cannot complete the training. They just aren't ready for it. They're not cut out for it. They couldn't do a function of the job. And that's usually in the academy or in their training program. Their training program lasts about 5 months. So it's about 20 weeks. And some people it's not really the job for them. And so this is a busy city. They have a lot of responsibilities. They have a lot of calls to attend to. So if they're not quite ready for that level of busyness, they might not make it here, but they might be good law enforcement officers somewhere else. So we do work with our partner agencies that are a little smaller or have less of that high speed to make sure if they are valuable somewhere else, we can. We do lose about 40% of our people that we hire through that process. It's a large number. That's about national average. We're not outside that scope. So we do monitor that. Sometimes somebody might not pass the academy, but we feel we can recycle them and put them back in. So we'll rehire them and put them back into a second round. If it was an injury or maybe they just weren't quite ready for that, but we think they could be successful. So we lose people from that. And that's probably high on the list of how we lose people. The other way is through retirements, just naturally occurring retirements. They're up on their service time. They've maxed out. Or they've hit that minimum retirement and they've just decided that they want to not be a police officer anymore. So some of those people have started a little bit older in life and they're just ready for a retirement. So we do have a lot of retirements. And then the other side is the medical side of that. So if somebody has a debilitating injury or illness that they cannot come back from, they do have to medically retire at that point. So that's three of how we do it. So in January, we were down about 5 vacancies going into the academy, in our January academy. And so now we're at about 30. So it's about 25 that we lost throughout that time.
I have a different question, Chief. On average, when you do a deeds area deployment, like at the Diamonds Casino,
Yeah.
what is the knock-on effect of reducing crime, say, over a year? Are you keeping those statistics in that? Or are they being gathered?
Yes, we keep the statistics. It's hard to compare apples to apples all the time because we don't, the boundaries of those areas aren't set in stone. They're not like a permanent boundary. We create those boundaries based on the heat maps and what's happening. So we don't always, even if we go back into, say, the Keystone area, decide to go back, the boundaries might switch and change a little bit depending on where we're at, patterns of crimes. But what we do look at is for the next 6 months afterwards, we go back and revisit that area to see what are the crimes that are occurring there and what impact did we have long-term. And overarchingly, what we find is that once we've left the area, we still see a decrease in crimes and calls for service that are happening. Sometimes they can ramp up after like 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. But definitely in those next 2 months afterwards, we still see decreases in significant crimes. And it's hard to compare one area to another area because one area might have auto burglaries, might be what their problem is. And so we make a decrease in auto burglaries. And then they say, well, how many auto burglaries have you prevented since you've been doing deeds? Well, the other area might not have had auto burglaries. So some areas have different crimes. So we have to look at everything in its totality. So some of those statistics are hard to do, but we do keep all that data long-term just so we can watch it.
Jarrett Singh for the record. So I had a question around houselessness. I live over on 4th
Yes.
Street, by 4th Street. So it's an area that, and there's just a lot of folks that are down there. And it was in December, we had an officer come in and I asked him a question. If he had one thing that could help him with just any of these incidences, like what would that be? And he said more social workers, more mental health people that could respond to these things with them. Where is that something that you all are addressing, or is that something that fits into your goals and vision?
Yes, so we have for most clinicians, so there are mobile outreach and safety teams. So they are mental health clinicians that work for the police department. They go out with our officers in partnership, and they also do things after the fact. So one of the things that if we get somebody that is maybe suicidal or has an issue that they're calling and we don't really want to send police officers into a situation if we don't have to for somebody that is threatening to commit suicide or it is not a danger to the general public, because what we don't want to do is force a violent interaction if we don't have to. So we're very cognizant of that. We have a policy on mental health and a policy on response to suicide calls to make sure that we are not forcing a violent interaction. Sometimes it has to happen because that person might be so violent or wanted for other violent crimes that we do have to have that interaction. But when we can avoid it, that's what our number one goal is. So with that, those mental health clinicians can call back and do the follow-up later or get on the phone with that person that night, get them through a crisis intervention program. But what we're lacking throughout the city is an opportunity for that mobile crisis team that responds differently than from law enforcement, that can take people to a mental health or crisis care facility. We just had the crisis care campus open up. That's very helpful to us, but we do need more spaces to take people, and we need more mental health clinicians that aren't just for the police department, but really are for the whole community at large. So we acknowledge that. We are working on what that funding mechanism would be to increase that number, because they're very helpful to our staff. It's a very challenging space to be in, and it's also hard to find mental health workers right now. They're a commodity. And so to get them to come work for the government and to work for a police department, it's not always what they want to do, because you can make a lot more money sometimes in other places. So the ones that we have, we really have embraced because they are very passionate about wanting to work in that law enforcement capacity. But yes, growing that program is something that we're definitely interested in.
Well, I kind of a follow-up comment / question, I guess, but I always think it's interesting that as we've grown cities, society, right, evolves and whatnot, we still have the same systems of fire, government, policing, but it almost feels like we have this fourth space that's opened up more for providing needs outside of just like those two main groups. Is there ever talk of, I guess it's kind of what you're saying, is there's this new funding area, right? Is there talk amongst other people where they're seeing this gap that could potentially be filled by maybe another group of people that can work in coordination across those groups?
Absolutely. So one of the downside, I've been a police officer for 28 and a half, almost 29 years now. And I love my job. I mean, I would not change it for the world. I encourage people to be in law enforcement. It is a phenomenal career. One of the things that has happened though, as our challenges with mental health and response to mental health has grown, and other issues that are more social issues in our community, because the police are available 24/7, and really have a wide variety of things that we do and handle. If somebody calls, we go and we handle it, but it's probably not necessarily a police-related matter. I mean, we talked about that with the strategic plan. What's our number one goal there? Does it fit into that goal of the police? Probably not. So there is another space where we need to look at what our options are. I will say that the city of Reno, when I came here, one of the driving factors for me to come here was I saw how they were responding to things like unhoused people, to things like mental health, to the partnerships that were being created with nonprofits, with different groups in our city. So a lot of the stuff that I had seen in police organizations fall back to police departments was being handled by other people within our city, where they're in partnerships with our nonprofits that allows the police to say, I need help in this situation because I don't know how to handle this. It's not what my expertise is, and I can call this person to help me out. So we work really close with Clean and Safe and those other partners. And it's one of the things that brought me here is because I liked how they saw that there was another space. Can that grow? Absolutely.
This is Sarah Horseman, sorry,
No,
for
no,
the
go.
record. Thank you, Chief. I'm happy and piggybacking on the last questions. I'm happy to hear there's some progressive, ways of policing that you guys are moving forward. And I was thinking about the MOST team because I've had to call them before I have an adult son with disabilities. And I know when I had to call, it was a Sunday and 3 police officers showed up and they looked clueless, and I didn't blame them. It was like, I know this, you guys are the ones available. There's not the mental health providers. And they stayed and did the best they could until a mental health clinician showed up. But I know there's been a lot of state laws and things in the legislature about training law enforcement and first responders on people with disabilities and the different, I know there's even things on ID cards. And I was just wondering if that is something that's been implemented in the academy or if that comes later with on-the-job training.
Yes, all of our officers, through our department, except for maybe 1 or 2 that are probably not in their full capacity outside yet, because we don't really do training if you're not on the street. It's a logistical issue. But all of our officers, either in the academy or I would say 99.9% of them, there might be a couple that haven't had the crisis intervention training and have had that mental health training. We're also kicking off this year in the next few months implicit bias training, which really does dive into when you're responding to a call, what is the first thing you're going to think of and how are you going to respond and how do you change your brain if you have a bias that you don't even know about and you might be treating somebody differently when you respond because of the way that you were raised or experiences that you've had. We all have biases. We all have implicit biases. And it's how do you train your brain to recognize them? And so that training is going to start this year for all of our officers, which is really exciting for me. We're also working on that other side of it, like that. How do the officers or mental health clinicians or fire department, when they respond to issues, kind of know better what they're getting into? Because like I said, when somebody calls the police, they're not necessarily, sometimes they're very good, but a lot of times they're not the best source of information because they're under a crisis situation themselves. And so how do we increase that? How do we have the community feel that when they respond, if they have somebody in their house that's deaf or has Alzheimer's, what can we do to get that information into our system? And that's a big work in progress, but I'm working with my mental health clinicians on developing that system. There's a lot of places in the United States that have done that successfully. We are getting a new CAD system, and I think with that, we'll have a better ability to do some more data entry where maybe members of the community can say, I live with my mom, she has Alzheimer's. If you get a call there, just know that she might tell you something, but this is it. This is a contact for, they're really increasing what we know when we go to that call.
Ilya Arberman for the record.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, hi. So I'd like to just hear, and you can, answer however briefly or extensively as you like, but maybe just a, bird's eye view assessment of since a lot of the kind of slate of anti-homeless ordinances that went into effect last year, which when we did have some discussions with other officers here, kind of they're touted as these are tools that are useful for us in our toolbox. How have they been working? Have there been more tickets given out, for example, for people sleeping in their cars or people on the sidewalk? And has that been effective in sort of the bigger picture? Obviously, crime prevention is one part of it, but general sort of moving the dial, at least on kind of what's happening downtown. Are we actually getting people into services? Are those ordinances useful towards that? I know it's only been a few months, but I'd like to hear kind of, sort of your bird's eye take on what's been going on.
So the ordinances that were put into effect before, the no sitting, lying, or camping ordinances that came about being on public property. So if you are on a sidewalk, you cannot have that, you can't put a tent there, you can't sleep there, you cannot live in that space. Parks have always been under that ordinance, so nothing changed there. The river has always been under that ordinance, and private property has always been in that ordinance. We added the public space into that because there was a lot of spaces where we were running into places where we could not have people camping or living in that space for safety reasons or because of the sidewalks or for a host of other reasons, but it was still happening. We didn't have a tool or a mechanism to really enforce any crimes with that. They did get enacted. What happens after an ordinance is enacted is we cannot enforce that ordinance it's on its own until we received what's called a Nevada offense code or a knock code. So once the day that ordinance passed, we could apply for that knock code. We just got those knock codes maybe about 3 weeks ago, so it was really recent. So when those knock codes, from the time that the ordinance passed until the knock codes came out, really we were doing a lot of education. We were starting to warn people. That ordinance comes with, it has to be warned prior to us being able to do any enforcement. So somebody has to be told what you are doing is illegal. You cannot do it. We couple that not just with us telling people to leave, because that's not necessarily effective, but providing those resources. These are the people that you can call. This is where we can take you. This is where we can get you a ride to, using our partners with Karma Box, with the Downtown Reno Partnership, with Clean and Safe, and a whole host of other nonprofits to make sure that this person that we're giving that warning to before they have a citation knows what their other options are. There is the way that that works for enforcement is it's a citation, because it's not something we would generally take people to jail for unless they have a warrant. They can't prove who they are. They have other offenses with them. They are combative or something else happens. So I don't have the data yet on how many citations have been issued, because like I said, it's really been new that we have even been able to issue those citations, because we just received the offense codes and had that ability. So we've taken this period of time for education to the public, education to the people we are coming in contact with, letting them know this is coming, saying, hey, we need to get you into some resources because eventually what you're doing is going to be illegal and we're going to have to cite you. And then also education for our officers. So providing that training and information to them to make sure that they're aware of how the best way to go about doing this, and making sure the officers are also educated in what are the resources that are available for that person if they choose to want them. So we'll have more data on that as we build it up and look at it. It's just not available yet because it's been very close.
And Ilya Arman, just a follow-up question. What about car citation? Because that ordinance passed last year, I think, or even 2 years ago, as far as like sleeping in your car, sleeping in your RV.
No, those just passed with this one, the sleeping and camping in the car.
Oh, maybe, were those passed on the county level separately, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
So there was a county one, but the only change to that ordinance came when we did the sleeping, lying, camping, and it includes to be in your car.
Okay.
And the county did have something else, and Sparks has had something else. So there's been a lot that has been going on in that space. But that one just passed recently. There is laws and rules on occupied vehicles that have always been in effect, that we do have issues of occupied and abandoned vehicles. Those have been in effect for a long time, though they're not recent.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah.
Give a reminder for the record. I've had the opportunity to speak with other law enforcement agencies in the surrounding areas regarding with the new era of technology, and specifically talking about the new Center for on real-time information. And it was just a quick question. It's nothing. I hope you don't take it the wrong way or anything like that.
You're
But when I was talking to other individuals about this, they've been mentioning about there's like a certain certain people have certain occurrences to, let's say, to bring up certain information about people, or like, so the baseline of this is not like any officer has all the access to of any individual. There has to be like a set, specifically like a crime or something. There's like barriers of information. So let's say if I pass through an area where there's a camera, for an instance, that you guys are using, no officer could just go to look at my plates and they'll just find out everything about me without, even I have any criminal history or have broken any offense. So do you guys are also updating your the barriers for information? So what officers have access to?
Absolutely. So this has been in effect for quite some time. It's we are PLETs are NCIC certified, so all the access and data points that we can get information to, we can get a lot of information. But we have to take a test once a year that talks about what you can and cannot do. It's trained in the academy. And then we have policies on it. And essentially what it is, it's a need to know information. So we have the ability to access all of this information, but we have to do it with a need to know. So if I have an officer that is randomly, for no purpose, just sees your car driving down the road and goes, well, I don't like that guy. And then they run your criminal history. I'm sure you have no criminal history, but somebody's criminal history, not yours. Somebody's criminal history, their driving record, who they're married to, where they live. There is no need for that to know. So the officers have to have need to know to access those databases to get that information. Now, what does that mean in real life? If they're investigating a crime, they're behind your car and they think your plates are expired, or they think that you might have been speeding or ran a stop sign, or it looks like a car that matches somebody else, there is some information they can get. But when you start getting into criminal history and things like that, really does become more specific with the need to know. And we're very aware of that. Our officers are all aware of that. And we have the ability through our IT department, every city-owned device, computers, cell phones, the ones in the car, the ones at the station, the access to that, I can get access to anybody's information they have access to any time. So I can double check that work. We also have a mechanism where when we don't own those systems, they're owned by another entity. And so we have to pass these tests. All of us do. To even be in the building unsupervised, you have to pass the test. Those agencies that own that information do random checks on us and audits to make sure that we're using the information properly. And we have successfully passed with 100% all of our checks since I have been here and even before that. So we make sure that we are in compliance and we have policies that keep us in compliance. I am not going to say that it has never happened in the world, because you can all Google news stories and you will find a police officer somewhere that did not do that. But there is a mechanism in place. We have a policy, and those are offenses that can be they're taken very seriously. They can lead up to termination for a law enforcement officer.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Zach Bolton for the record. Would this real-time information center only be used for active incidents, or is there a proactive element to that?
There is a proactive element to that. So all the cameras that we have are all public facing cameras. There's nothing that's a violation of anybody's privacy. It's anything that you could see if the officers were standing on the street next to it, same type of level of open information. With that, we will eventually at some point, and we have the cameras up and running. So if there's an area that we know is a problem area, we have a frequency of crimes in an area, we will have people monitor those to see if something happens there, and then they can report that back to the officers on the street. It's not full-time happening yet, but eventually I would like it to be almost full-time, where people have the ability to watch what's happening in that proactive manner also.
So it's more of a detection on if an incident's happening, as opposed to something like a license plate system that would give citations or
Yeah,
make it
no, we
available.
can't do that. Nevada law doesn't allow for, unless I, as a police officer, have to personally witness you commit a traffic offense before I can take any sort of action on that. So we are not, it's in the legislature right now, but that's a whole different type of system than what we would use for this. So we're not looking for people running a stop sign, running a red light. That's not the goal of this. The goal is really, is somebody breaking into a car? Is there a fight on the street? Is, if we get a call for service or somebody calls and says, hey, there's something going on here, we can look and see what actually is happening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief, thanks for showing up for our first NAB meeting. Just had a question, lost the question. Oh, language barriers on calls.
Yeah.
If there's a language barrier and another officer that can communicate in that language, whether it's, could be Punjabi, Spanish, whatever, because we have so many different different ethnics in town. How is that handled in your department are you searching for more type of officers that speak that language? Or is there more of an encouragement for the officers to embark into another language?
So the best way for translation to occur in the policing world is for another officer to do that translation. It's a better way for us to handle translations. Our officers are paid additional for being bilingual and having the ability to communicate in another language. And any language is, we take in all language. So if it's sign language, if it's Spanish, whatever it is, we want people. I have officers who speak very interesting languages. I have Chinese, all kinds of fun languages that my officers speak. And some of them, that's their native language, and some of them have learned that language for a different variety of reasons. But we pay them an additional, they get paid an additional pay to be able to be a translator. So we utilize them on calls when we need to. We also use them for public speaking engagements that we have also. The next option for us, if that's not available, is we use a translation service. We have the ability to call into a translation service where they can use a phone translation for any language. So even an obsolete language that nobody really knows or we don't have anybody that speaks, we can use that translation service. And for quick things or for getting basic information, we will use people in the community that are present to help with that translation. That can be problematic because we don't really always know the relationship with the person. And so we want to make sure that we're getting the best information possible and that they're not telling us something that's untrue. But we do have to do that sometimes if the other options aren't available. But the phone service is the one if we don't have somebody that speaks that language working.
All righty, so let's, well, thank you so much, Chief Nats, for being here this afternoon. We really appreciate your time, and I hope the public as well appreciates that. And I think we got a lot of questions answered and a lot of great information presented. So I feel really, really good about this. Thank you so
Well,
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and thank you for being so willing to be a part of our community because I'm a firm believer that we are a more successful community when we have a diverse group of leaders helping us understand all of the needs. I'm going to do one small plug. We are doing a symposium on policing tomorrow night at the Reno Town Mall. And that's an opportunity for community members to come in and talk to members of law enforcement from all the police agencies locally. And it's a great time. We partner in small tables and groups. So all the questions that you might have or concerns, we have an opportunity to address there. So it's a great place. And then we're also doing an immigration forum on Thursday night, and information about that is on our website also. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's go ahead and move to the to C1 Cortez Valley's Village 22 tentative NAP for discussion only. Oh no, very good. So, okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is item C2, 3027 East Taylor Street, 7-plex apartments.
Good evening. Oops. It's me. There it is. There we go. Well, hello, good evening. My name is Colin Jacobson. I'm representing a developer, JRM Capital. We're here tonight to discuss the construction of a 7-unit apartment complex located at 327 East Taylor Street. Let's see here. There we go. So we are looking and seeking a major deviation to reduce parking spaces from 9 to 7. We have submitted the application. We're here to present, to kind of show you a few things. So this is the existing site right now. You can see that it's not much to see really. It's been vacant now for almost 20 years. There was a previous demolition permit that there was an existing home or complex on, so they took it down about 18, 20 years ago. This is the official parcel map that kind of shows the property boundaries. And this is kind of the street view. So certainly not super sightly, not very attractive. And we're looking and excited to come in and improve the area. And we're looking to kind of put, you can see the bottom west elevation there is really kind of the appearance or the look of what we're trying to place there. Again, it's going to be a very nice, modern complex. Each unit is about the same square footage, two bedrooms in each unit. It's going to definitely improve the area. This is sort of the back side of it. But of course, the constraints that we have is parking. Obviously, parking is at a premium in the area. You can see that the alleyway, which is the 5 spots that you see there on the left, that's kind of behind in the alley. So we've got 5 parking spaces there, and then we're counting on 2 spaces to the front. So that gives us 7 parking spaces, and per code, we technically need 9. And so hence the deviation request. If I go back a couple, you can see with this particular Google map, even this one, you can kind of see a little bit, but the street parking, as you guys can see, is fairly open. There's probably 60–70% availability. Now, again, that could change tomorrow, but on average, it's a fairly large street with available parking spaces. And in addition to that, what we wanted to try to highlight is that in fairly close proximity, we have public transportation routes. So again, very dense area, public transportation is being utilized quite a bit. And where the star is represents the property of the site. And so we've got a few different locations for public transportation as well. We included one initial comment. I think we have a total of 3 as of maybe today, but the first comment that we've gotten thus far, you can see support the parking reduction. This is a dense transit-rich neighborhood. It's walking distance to many uses, bus lanes, bike lanes, et cetera, et cetera. So initial feels like we're getting the support of the community as well. And that's the short and sweet of it. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, and Jarrett Singh for the record. I am very pro density, if I could get rid of all parking restrictions, I would do that. But obviously I'm just here. So what would be the outcome if you all weren't able to get this parking reduction? Would the project be abandoned? Would there be, what would that look like?
A great question, first and foremost. I think, there's, we hate to speculate, number one, but it could ultimately mean a reduction in units, which, given the cost benefit analysis, it could potentially mean that the project doesn't go. If it does go, or if we decide, or we look at the numbers and we may need to revise floor plans or layouts and reduce bedrooms and so forth, again, it may not be a cost-effective solution. So we're hoping, again, we're trying to maximize, obviously, the space. We're trying to maximize the units for the public as well, because it benefits everyone. And so I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
And just follow-up question on there too. What, do you know what the maximum like allowable units is for this parcel?
7.
It's 7?
Yeah, based on our lot size, we're right at the maximum.
And does the parking requirement, is that due to the number of units? Is that what it's based off of, not bedrooms?
It's actually both. So there's and it's in addition to the Wells overlay. So
Okay.
the 7 parking spots, for example, would be adequate in the city of Reno that's outside of the
Mhm.
Wells overlay.
Mhm.
So because we're in this particular area, we have these additional considerations we have to meet.
I see.
Unfortunately, the parking is at again, it's very restrictive to maximize the space.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I wish you the best. Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate the
You
help
got my
here.
support. Do you have a link for this, for your all's comment section
I
here?
know it's in the current package.
Okay.
Right now, which is on the web. I saw it earlier today. So I don't know if that gets taken down or what the protocol is for that, but it is currently on the Reno link.
Thank you.
You bet.
Jorgen Hohen for the record. Have you looked at the analysis of maybe doing like a, on the north side, a parking basement? You know, I live here and have a basement. Think it's a foundation and maybe add 2 parking spots, because if you rent out 7 units, 2 people each one has a car, that might be 14 cars versus 7, right? Would it
Yeah,
destroy the cost?
It would be
Could
a
it be done?
significant cost difference for sure. Yeah. I mean, again, any additional construction that has to happen. Right now, it's a fairly standard 2-story complex. Anything that we would have to do in addition to that would just add cost and change the overall, cost benefit.
What's the average cost per square foot to build there? 300, 400?
Well, again, we're playing with that right now as well. We're still kind of in the mix of figuring out what we want to do for finishes and so forth, right? Because obviously that impacts cost. And again, we're kind of trying to cross that first bridge with getting approval on our parking spaces, because if we have to go back to the design board, that takes time and money to do as well. So that could change everything.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
And Ilya Arberman for the record, I think generally we'd like to ask anyone who's building, especially in this area, any affordability considerations as far as, are these going to be condos? Is there kind of any plan, just market rate housing? What's the plan?
So I would say that I think the way I would respond is they're going to be very reasonably priced for the area. But again, keep in mind, it's a new product. There's very few new apartment complexes, at least in this area. So, we're gonna, in order to make it cost effective for us to build, the rents are gonna have to be, reasonable. But I would say it's gonna be a very reasonable apartment complex. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Valerie Tilson for the record. On the image that's labeled existing parcel map, do you know the number of units and on that are on the left and on the right side of this?
I was trying to find it. I don't know if we know that or not. I don't know right off the top of my head,
Okay.
Valerie, unfortunately. I was thinking I could try to derive some information by clicking back, but
Cause I can see, if I look to the image on the left, I can see there's parking in the back.
yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, that's what you're thinking for the parking and then use the front. But if there's gonna be a battle of the cars, whether it's gonna be, let's say a senior moves in, can't walk across the street. And that's where I'm mentally putting my brain on.
So one of our spaces, let me see if I can show you,
The corner
just to be
right.
clear, yeah, So the one right there, you can see on the bottom is the designated ADA parking space. That's required per code, and so that's where we're showing. You can see the extra space in the hatched area just below it. So that's kind of that access ramp up to the sidewalk that goes into the units.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Any other questions?
Vice Chair, we do have public.
Okay, well, thank you very much, sir. Let's go ahead and move into the public comment.
I was a little surprised when I got the notice that the 7-unit apartment complex was being built there because the maximum that's allowable according to the MF30 zoning is 4 units.
I don't believe that's correct.
It is correct. At one time, the neighborhood was zoned MF45. And so there are a lot of 7-unit apartments. Actually, there are 8 and 9-unit apartments because the city allowed them to overbuild at the time. But sometime in the last 40 years, the zoning was changed to MF30, which means you're allowed 1 unit per 1,450 square feet. So 4 units is the maximum allowed on that property. And I'm surprised that the city, you want to check it out before you put it out for bid.
Well,
Pablo Nava Duran.
I do support this project, the 7 apartments. So like how many story that we have and how many room or bathroom and what the cost for average renter? Any questions? No? No question, no? Okay.
That is all.
All right, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and continue on, with development project on letter C3 for Champion Chevrolet, Harbor Way.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Hilton Atherton. I'm part of the civil engineering company that's doing the plans for this project. Unfortunately, our project owner and the applicant couldn't be here tonight, so I'm filling in. And any questions you may have, I will answer to the best of my ability. We're asking for a conditional use permit. Our site is at 850 Harvard Way. The site is about 2.61 acres. There was an existing medical office there that has been demolished under that permit number. The site has been previously fully developed with parking, landscaping, utility connections, and anything else they needed. To the north, we have a commercial way and some we have commercial industrial to the north. To the south, we have automotive way, as well as Champion Chevrolet's collision center. To the east, we have an undeveloped site and some general industrial, and to the west is Harvard Way and then the Champion Chevrolet dealership. The master plan for our site is suburban mixed use, and the master plan is similar for the area surrounding our site. The existing zoning is general commercial, which is similar to the adjacent sites with mixed employment being adjacent. So our proposed project is where Champion Chevrolet would like to develop a vehicle loading and inventory area. The reason for the conditional use permit is for the storage of more than 12 vehicles. And then improvements would include paved vehicle inventory storage, landscaping, and overall drainage improvements. And then here is the case information, and then I'm open to any questions.
Jürgen Hohen for the record. Yeah, you're a good neighbor. You guys are a good neighbor. I live around the corner there. I think you do need a loading place because the trucks come right in the middle of Kitsky
Oh,
and
yeah.
they unload and it's
Yeah, hopefully
A
that will,
bit
this will,
sketchy.
yeah, hopefully this will alleviate.
So I'm
some of
really
that.
glad you're applying for this, and I fully support this. I think this is a great idea and it's needed. Thank you.
Valerie Tilson for the record. What would be the route of the trucks coming in to drop off the vehicles? Because I know there's gonna be, a one-way coming in with the Mill Street, coming in with them changing. So I was just making sure it's not gonna be, because you have the, bikes. Can't remember what the name of the business is, that's on Matley. I'm just trying to make sure of flow of others.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you for your question. I'm not positive on that. The existing site has access from Harvard Way and Automotive Way. I'm not sure logistically how the trucks would come in and drop those off. I can look into that, but this time I'm not positive.
Get a reminder for the record, yeah, that's something that will have to be, obviously not by us, but when with planning commission and stuff like that, they'll have to look into that and take that into consideration. That area already, specific on Harvard, it's very condensed or very reduced as it is. And then adding all the parking that people do on the side of the road as well, it makes it a really small area for to be yeah, I understand the need for it as far as makes it a lot safer for the workers and for the drop off people for those vehicles, so they don't have to be on Kiski and go driving across to Kiski. So make it, somewhere a little bit more in the back where it's not so consistent or battling the traffic and whatnot. But yeah, that going into and out is going to be something that will have to be looked at, because I do believe Harvard is going to be pretty hard. The only way would be going all the way over by the post office and going to the last street where you can, get on, and there's Harvey Davidson and all those businesses right there as well. Even that is a little bit, kind of reduced as well.
Yeah.
So they will have to they'll have to see with that and get any clarifications from planning commission. But yeah, that's something that we will have to bring up as well. All right. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Sweet deal. All right. Well, it was a pretty good meeting overall, I believe. I think we got a lot of information, especially from our chief Nance. Therefore, let's continue on with item D, board, commission, committee member reports and announcements. Anybody from the body have any announcements? Any committee announcements? Any major announcements, professional or personal? Go ahead.
Valerie Tilson for the record. Just want to let everyone know, for the city of Reno, the big spring cleanup has started. They have posted on the website of what dates, so you can dump your trash. And also for seniors, there's another, for those who are struggling with rent and other issues, can now reach out to Senior Rescue. And they have now published their first publication. Want to let people know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jürgen Horn. I'll second that. That seniorrescue.org is really an effective new nonprofit that keeps seniors housed by giving them, I think it was up to don't quote me on this, $250 or 200 something per month of rent aid to keep them housed. It's a fabulous service. They're working very hard.
It's $100 extra, or the difference of what they can afford. And as I read the newsletter today, and it's up to, I believe, a year of subsidy.
Good people. they're really, Blake Vanderwell is the director, I think, and he's doing a great job.
So it's called seniorrescue.org. Uh, So I started on the NAB, I don't know how long, is it 2-year terms? Is that what it is? Something like that?
2 years.
So I'm coming up on my 2nd year. And when I started, I think there was only like 4 of us up here or something like that. We had just basically just had quorum. So seeing all of these folks that have joined over the last year, I know we've had some new members join as well too, is really, really cool. And it looks like we have a great diverse group of voices and stuff up here. So yeah, I appreciate y'all. It's really awesome.
Zach Bolton for the record. I had a question for the staff liaison. I see that we got a memorandum from the Reno Fire Department. Does that mean that they won't present in a future meeting?
So, they missed the March. Since they couldn't make it, they provided.
Okay,
And if you have any questions, feel free to forward them. And then I will make sure they get them.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And also for the record, just so everyone on Zoom. So he joined us at some point, I can't tell you.
Valerie Tilson for the record. Again, on the senior rescue, if you are on Facebook, I don't know if you follow Mike Clark, but he did post today the newsletter that just came out, and it has the link. So that way we can spread the word, and definitely for this city cleanup. So if anyone wants to volunteer, help out. And the panel did close on the Ward 3 makeover. So they'll be announcing sometime in April of who's the lucky winners and when they can start their contracts. Just want to let people know. Thank you.
This is Sarah Horseman for the record. Yesterday, March 31st, was the Trans Day of Visibility, and I wanted to give a shout out to Our Center. They're I'm sure most of you are aware, they're on Wells Avenue, but I wanted to remind the public or anyone watching that they have a lot of really great free resources, including they host different free events for teens, for parents, everybody from different walks of life, and it's the only, to my knowledge, in Northern Nevada LGBTQ community center. So I wanted to give a shout out and remember people to support them.
Very good. Any other announcements? No? All right. Let's go ahead into E for future agenda items. Anything we would like to particularly want to hear from any agency specific for this body?
I think at some point it might be interesting to talk to one of our city social workers to see how those programs function.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ilya Ardman for the record, I did send an email to NABS, and we are hoping to do a presentation at all the NABS in the future. And I don't know if you have a note for this on the overnight warming center that the community did over from December to March. So hopefully on the May agenda, we can have some people come up and do a presentation about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I do want to extend the invitation to all of us as a body. Do we have any organizations that we partake of outside of being on the NAB? If there's anybody that can come in and do a presentation to just give us an awareness of different outreaches, different opportunities for networking or anything like that, we can also bring them up here for the body and also for the public to know. And I think that'll be another great way to communicate and to bring a big connection between us as a NAB to the public and vice versa.
Jürgen Hohen, why don't we ask Senior Rescue to come up and pitch?
Valerie Tilson for the record. Yes, I was gonna ask Mike Clark to see if he could attend one of the meetings, because there might be a lot of issues I know it's county, so it's out of our scope, but still same town. Maybe there's some issues that is not being brought up or talked about that we can actually help at a grassroots level. Like I'd like to have someone from Catholic Services come in, because we're hearing about cuts. What can we do as a community? Like, filling up karma boxes. What can we do to network together, such as Miguel having meet your councilman member, like Kathleen Taylor's having this week. I believe Thursdays meet the council member. Maybe we can have one is meet your NAB and your councilman.
Yeah, maybe the city attorney for Reno and also the city attorney for Sparks, Wes Duncan, who's been, I think, very interesting in this policy changes they've made in Sparks. So maybe we can have both DAs, district attorneys come in and talk to us.
Chair saying for the record, what is the formal process for when we have groups or people that would want to present? Like, do they need to go through and apply, or like, how would that work?
They could just email us. For senior rescue, if you could provide.
Thank you.
Okay, well, there isn't anything else to bring up as far as agenda items for the future. Let's go ahead into section F, public comment.
It may pertain to matters both on. The timer will begin when you say your name and if you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting. I do not.
Good morning, guys. My name is Pavnath Duran. We have a zoning meeting that we could rezone the New World area up to Worcester High School, from the Mine Ridge High School to Worcester High School. And that's concerning for me because so the student will have to walk from Moana Lane, which is the homeless will sleep in, despite the state law, could expose them for needle, drugs, all kinds of stuff. So I know you're not in jurisdiction, but how you make a New World area safe to cross to go to Vaughan and Worcester. Maybe build a bridge, maybe. So that I thought so. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the public comment from today. If there's no other public comment in person or online, I would like to go ahead and move to the section G, adjournment of this NAB 3 meeting of April 1st, 2025.
Elliot Arborman, motion to adjourn.
Jorgen Hohen, second.
All right, all of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody adjourn? Anybody against? Very
Let's
good.
not-
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.
Stay in.